Our first stop on the next leg of our trip was at Lassen Volcanic National Park. This park is unique in that it contains all four types of volcanoes found on Earth: shield, composite, cinder cone, and plug dome. You can see evidence of the park fire from 2024 that burned more than 425,000 acres and is the fourth largest fire in California's history. Lassen Peak is a prominent feature of the park and is the largest plug dome volcano in the world. On the morning we arrived in the park, it was a very chilly day, 30 degrees with a wind blowing between 40 and 50 miles per hour. But that was a good thing because we had the park to ourselves. Our hike for the day was a 3-mile round-trip hike to Bumpass Hell. Bumpass Hell is the park's largest hydrothermal area, and it's like a mini Yellowstone with boiling springs, steaming vents, bubbling mud pots, and colorful alien-looking terrain. Bumpass Hell is named after a man named Kendall Van Hook Bumpass, a pioneer who accidentally fell into a boiling mud pot while exploring the area in the 1860s. He severely burned his leg, leading to its amputation, thus a literal hell for Mr. Bumpass.
We're at Lassen Peak Volcanic National Park at Bumpass Hell, and we are the only ones here.
Park. It's really cool. These are fumaroles, like at Yellowstone. Best part is nobody else is here. Could be that it's 33 degrees with wind blowing 50 miles an hour, but it's fun. We enjoyed walking the boardwalks and being able to take it in by ourselves before the hike out, as it was starting to warm up and more people were starting to arrive. This was a really special stop for us, the ability to enjoy a national park and have it to ourselves. When we finished the hike, we returned to the van and finished the drive through the park, and we had a great day at Lassen. We were taking advantage of the van by being totally spontaneous. We drove through Reno, something we wouldn't do with an RV, and decided to go to Lake Tahoe. We stayed at Tahoe Valley Campground, made reservations that morning. It's one of our trails collections through 1,000 trails. And it was pretty much empty as it was becoming off-season, mid-October. And there were huge pine cones everywhere. We were afraid we were going to get hit by one. We spent the next couple of days driving around Lake Tahoe. Our first stop was at Emerald Bay State Park. The biggest challenge was that most of the state parks were already closed for the season, and that is where most of the parking is located. So even though the crowds were thinner, there was very little parking. The weather was cooler too, so we didn't get to enjoy the lake as much. It would have been great to kayak out to this little island. Sugar Pine Point State Park was still open, and we were able to park there and get the girls out for a nice little stroll down to the lake. I think they enjoyed the chance to stretch their legs and get some beautiful views of Lake Tahoe. There is a beautiful mansion within the park, and it overlooks the lake. You can walk out on the dock to get more views, and it was a pretty rough day the day we visited, and pretty chilly. We continued 12 miles north of Lake Tahoe to Truckee, California. This town maintains its Old West vibe and was a key stop along the first transcontinental railroad built in the 1860s. It is also known as the snowiest town in the U.S. Next adventure was to take Highway 50, the loneliest road in the United States, from Lake Tahoe to Great Basin National Park. This route follows the Pony Express Highway. We stopped at this little coffee house to inquire about the passport stamp book for the loneliest highway, and we collected stamps and sent in for our certificate when we finished, proving we had survived the loneliest highway. Our first stop was at Grimes Point, just 10 miles east of Fallon. This location contains thousands of petroglyphs that are very well preserved, and they are believed to be up to 8,000 years old. It was great that this half-mile loop that took you through the petroglyphs was dog-friendly, and we had great views of the desert. The next location in Fallon that we came to was Sand Mountain Recreation Area. This is a popular location for dune buggies and side-by-sides. The dune is 3.5 miles long and 1 mile wide and 600 feet in height, and it is the largest single dune in the Great Basin area. We were thoroughly enjoying the ride on Highway 50. There are 17 named mountain passes along this route and just vast openness. And we arrived at Middlegate Station just in time for lunch. This location was once an active station on the Pony Express Highway, and then later was auctioned off and became a saloon that is now famous for its burgers, the Middlegate Monster. This is a 1 1/3 pound double-stacked burger on a huge sourdough roll with onion rings and olives and lettuce and tomato, all made up to look like a monster. And it is huge. And if you eat the whole thing by yourself, you get a free t-shirt. John and I couldn't even eat the whole thing together, and we were so full. We didn't eat for days, but that burger was delicious, and this place is definitely worth a stop. It's one of those fun, quirky locations with great food and lots of character. There was even a live band while we were there. And of course, I couldn't avoid jumping on the horse for another photo opportunity. Next up was the legendary shoe tree. Legend has it that a young couple who had just been married in Reno had their very first fight as they were traveling east. She got out of the car and said she'd rather walk home. He took her shoes, threw them in a tree, and said, "Then you can do it barefoot." They did make up and lived happily ever after, and since then, thousands of shoes have been thrown into the tree. And we were back in the van and heading east on Highway 50, and we were noticing that the mountains were covered with snow. A lot of snow, and we were starting to get a little nervous because we were heading to Great Basin, and we were hoping the park wouldn't close the Wheeler Peak Scenic Drive, as that was the access to most of the hikes we wanted to do. Our goal for the day was to get to Eureka and find a nice spot to camp for the night. We arrived in Eureka shortly before sunset, which gave us a little bit of time to walk this historic town. This town is known for its rich silver, lead, and zinc deposits. The population of Eureka boomed to 10,000 due to intense mining of silver in the 1870s. This city is a state historic landmark with many well-preserved buildings. And the downtown area just screams Wild, Wild West. It was really fun to walk the town before sunset. And then we got to park on top of the hill just out of town at the rest area for the night. Free camping in any rest area on Highway 50. We were up early and on our way just as the sun was coming up the next morning. Our goal for the day was to make it to Great Basin, and the ride continued to be beautiful. We made a quick stop in Ely and walked the cute little town. There was actually a casino motel that has a jailhouse where you can have a steak in the cell, and pretty murals in the downtown. But we needed to move on. We had an 11-mile ride on a dirt road where we got to see some wildlife. There were pronghorn, and we saw elk along this stretch of road. And we were going to the Ward Charcoal Ovens State Historic Park. These were built in 1876 to supply charcoal to the Ward Mining District smelters, and they ran for roughly 3 years. The ovens burned continuously for about 10 days per cycle, yielding up to 1,750 bushels of charcoal per oven. After operations of the ovens ceased, they were known to serve as temporary shelters. Legend suggests they may have even hid some famous outlaws. The ride out was 7 miles on a nice dirt road. We arrived at Great Basin before noon and made a quick stop at the Visitors Center to inquire about the scenic drive to Wheeler Peak. And unfortunately, the snow had closed the route and we were going to be unable to hike in the park. They suggested that we at least try to take a tour at Lehman Caves, and we were able to get last-minute tickets. We joined a ranger-led tour that lasted a little less than an hour and told us the story of how the cave was discovered. These were really beautiful cave formations, and we were really glad that we had the opportunity to take this in. But we will definitely be coming back to Great Basin National Park because the hikes up near Wheeler Peak look amazing, and that is on our bucket list for our next trip to the west. And when the tour was over, we were back in the van and heading to Utah and out of Nevada. We were a little bummed we hadn't got to hike, but at the same time, it gives us a great reason to go back out to this beautiful area.